Wonderful Friday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald back with you. We're grateful to have you on the McFiles Friday night. I wish we had James back on. James Akers, he's going to be away for a week or so, and we're going to really miss him. Boy, he did good last night. We do have a lot of breaking news, and I'll just mention it briefly here at the start. We do have some updates from the Iran conflict, Operation Epic Fury. We've had some massive U.S. military action tonight. We'll talk about that after the interview we're going to do with Anthony Cavaluchi. And we've got some updates on the Save America Act and things of that nature. We've got a lot of other stuff we could talk about, but the weather is taking center stage again tonight. We've got a dangerous weekend of weather coming across the country, especially for you folks in Wisconsin, Michigan, the Great Lakes area. You've got a major blizzard, but there is going to be another, this will be probably the third major outbreak of tornadoes, severe thunderstorms across the Central Plains, the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley this time, Mississippi Valley. It's going to go from probably Michigan all the way down to the Gulf Coast again. It's going to start in earnest on Sunday, but it's going to be a nighttime event into Monday, and then you folks in Virginia and the Carolinas heads up on Monday. And we recorded an interview this morning with our dear buddy Anthony Cavaluchi. He's from the National Weather Service office in Morristown that we're going to play for you tonight. We're going to talk about the weather a little bit. It is spring storm season. I thought it'd be good to discuss this with the experts, the pros, and tell you a little bit what's ahead this year. We're really just getting started. The peak tornado season is March, April, and May, and we're going to give a little weather class after the interview tonight, talk about Iran, and who knows, we may pull a surprise on you and get somebody on the phone with us to discuss some things tonight. You know, it is a McFiles Friday night. We're going to take your questions. I saw some new names pop up in the house tonight. So good to see you folks that are with us for the first time. And we get you in, and what was that thing I saw one time that you always have to have you get people in until it's too late for them to get out, until they realize you're crazy as you know what. So we hope that we'll get you hooked on the show before you realize you got a nutty host and just an old crazy dude, but he's very, very honored to be your host tonight, and I sure am grateful you're with us tonight. I really am. And we're going to have a good time tonight. Don't forget, on the face side of things, if you'd like to be with us tonight, I took my nap today. Not even voluntarily. I conked out this afternoon, and I think the Lord did it because he knew I was going to be up tonight. But we're going to do our second watch of the Lord. If you wasn't with us the first time, boy, you need to be with us this time if you can. It's going to be an all-night time of just worship, praise, prayer, intercession, apostolic praying, apostolic prayers. We'll pray for the sick at some point during the night. We'll pray for those in the chat, and we'll pray for our country. And if you'd like to call in, we'll have a Zoom link up. You can call in. You don't have to go on the camera, but you can click on that link and call in and put your name out there and pray for the country. And it's going to be an open link and so forth. And they can hear you. They won't be able to see you. So you don't have to get out of your pajamas. we don't care what you're wearing tonight. We just want you to come be with us because we're gonna pierce the darkness from 12 o'clock midnight, and we're gonna go as long as we can. I don't know how long it'll last. We lasted to 4 o'clock last time, and we'll just go as the Holy Spirit leads us tonight. But you don't want to miss it, and that's on the Faith side. It'll be on our Faith Network, and probably we'll do it on Rumble tonight, and maybe X. Facebook gives us so many problems with this music. I get copyrighted for my own music. It's like walking into a place and then you telling them I'm Chris McDonald, and they say, prove it. And I've got to prove that the music we do on the show, most of it we've produced ourselves on Sundays, and they'll lock the video down all over the world for a song that we've done and we've recorded. So with the music being like it is, that's why we don't air the Saturday Night Gospel Sing on Facebook or these worship services. So you got to come over to YouTube to be with us. And what we'll do is we will upload it to Telegram. We're trying to figure out how to broadcast live on Telegram. There's a trick to it, but we just don't know what it is yet. We're trying to figure that out. But you can go to Rumble and X tonight and YouTube if you'd like to come over and be with us on the Spirit Wordfire Network. Bottom line is you don't want to miss this tonight. It's going to be good. It's going to be a good time of fellowship, and it's something about that midnight watch. That first one we did, I tell you, the presence of God didn't lift all night. He was with us, and I have felt all day today that he's going to be with us again tonight. So please be with us. That's a face side thing. But listen, we're going to talk to my dear buddy Anthony Cavaluchi right now. I want you to just sit back and enjoy the interview. This was pre-recorded this morning. That's probably why Chris fell asleep today, because I had to get up early. I had to do this because Anthony had a full day and I had to get him when I could get him. But anyway, we're just grateful to have you tonight on the McFiles Friday night. Don't go anywhere. You're going to enjoy this interview. We'll take your questions. We've got some other presentations afterwards for a little bit. We'll be out of here probably by 11 or so, 11:30, and that'll bring us right up to the watch tonight at midnight on the face side. So get you a cup of coffee, get you a Coke, whatever you got to do. But I want you to listen to Anthony, and it's going to be a great talk with him. And we're grateful you're with us on a McFiles Friday night. And these Friday night shows tend to be a lot of fun. We want you to be relaxed and get your questions ready. We'll talk about some things. I do want to say this about Sunday night before I get to Anthony, because I'll forget it if I don't say it now. I've had a lot of emails this week. I say a lot. I've had 2 or 3 at least, and I've had some people ask me privately as well about the situation in Iran, and it's tied to Jeremiah 49. And Sunday night, it will be part of our Israel in the Church series that we're doing on Sunday night. We're going to address the Jeremiah 49 issue in Iran. And it's really, you've got to understand Ezekiel 38 and 39 before you understand Jeremiah 49 and vice versa. So be with us Sunday night at 6 o'clock. For those of you that have got questions and you've asked me, do you think this is the fulfillment of Jeremiah 49? I'll just go ahead and answer the question for you and tell you no. It's not. This thing that's going on in Iran is not. And I'll explain all that Sunday night. So be with me then, and we'll show it to you from the Bible, and we're going to compare some scripture with scripture. You know how we do things. Did we have a good Bible study this morning for those of you that were with us? Man, I tell you what, these Bible studies, you got to join us in the mornings if you can on the Faith Network, Spirit and Wordfire Network, Spirit Wordfire Network. We're experiencing the Lord every morning on those 10 o'clock Bible studies, and they last about an hour. We went a little long today, but I tell you what, the Spirit of God is just, he's really been thick, big, powerful, glorious. A lot of people responded to the altar call. We don't even do an altar service really in the mornings like that, but we did today, and a lot of people the Lord was touching in that study this morning. And so join us, but be with us a little bit later tonight. All right, that's later. Now it's our McFiles News Network now tonight on this network, and we're going to talk to Anthony Cavaluchi, our dear buddy from the National Weather Service, just right at the road from me here in Morristown. And we're going to talk about the spring storm system, a little bit about this weekend. I'll be back to talk to you more about that. And we hope you're going to sit back, buckle up, and have a good evening with us here on the McFiles Friday night. We figured out what was going on with the network last night. We had installed some antivirus software. It's good to keep the viruses off of you, but it just shuts everything down on your internet. And once I deleted every bit of that, it's been smooth sailing today. So we hope we figured the kinks out tonight. Knock on wood. So hopefully we won't have any interruptions like we did last night. We're grateful you're with us on a Friday night. Here's Anthony Cavaluchi, the man, the legend from the National Weather Service office in Morristown. He's my dear buddy. I know him personally. He's a great guy. And I hope you enjoy this chat we had today about this coming season of tornadoes. We got a dangerous weekend ahead, and we're going to talk about that with you after the show, after this interview, I should say. All righty. Grateful you're with us. Put some fire in that house. Here's Anthony Cavaluchi. Enjoy. And a good evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you on a very special pre-recorded McFiles interview. We are so grateful to have our dear buddy, Anthony Cavaluchi from the Morristown, Tennessee Weather Office. I I'm his neighbor now. I used not to be. I used to be about an hour from him. Now I'm just right next door to him. But it's always good to see Anthony. He's one of the best meteorologists in this region of the country, and I mean that. I mean that sincerely. And I appreciate him coming on and giving us some insight sometime to our weather here in East Tennessee, but not just Tennessee, but the country itself. And Anthony, always a pleasure to have you. Welcome back to the McFiles. Looking forward to talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, Chris.
Good deal. Buddy, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, we did a weather show the other night. We got a lot of feedback from it, and the spring storm season has started officially, and it's gotten off to a robust start in some parts of the country. We here in Tennessee, at least, we've escaped most of the serious weather. There's been a few incidents over in West Tennessee and Central, but that's always how it is. These storms run through western and central Tennessee like a line, and they die out right when they hit the valley. But I do want to talk to you about the season in general and get your thoughts on why there has been such we've had two really tornado, I would call them, when I say tornado outbreaks, we've already had two good, I would say, serious outbreaks of bad weather already this year. And most of that has been in the northern Midwest area, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Missouri, and even Ohio and Pennsylvania. And usually those areas of the country don't get going like that till May and June. And then we're going to talk about some general severe weather stuff this season, get your take on that. But what do you think's happened with that, and why is it? It's just a weird jet stream issue, or what's happening in that northern part of the tornado area, because they have gotten rocked twice.
Yeah, I'm going to guess you have nationwide viewers, so
We
I'll
do.
try to okay, I'll try to answer that as best I can, and not just relate it to East Tennessee. But if you remember, we had a couple of really cold outbreaks, both in December and January was very cold, especially here, but across that Great Lakes region and Northern Plains. So what the Earth's atmosphere is trying to do at all times is trying to equalize the temperatures. So if the equator is much warmer than up north, well, the Earth generates these weather systems to move that warmer air northward to the poles. So here we saw, I mean, I was in Chicago just before um, the event moved through Michigan and
Right.
other parts of the country. But what we had was really warm temperatures.
Gotcha.
And so the moisture was there, and I know the Storm Prediction Center that monitors severe weather across the country had highlighted that, gosh, 3 or 4 days ahead of the actual event.
Okay.
Now, they didn't extend it all the way up into Michigan, which was kind of interesting. But the wind shear was plenty strong, with the jet stream that you mentioned being strong. And springtime is kind of our bread and butter when it comes to forecasting and issuing warnings. And like you said, most of the time that does happen in the further south. Um, but in cases where we get these extreme temperature changes, like what we saw last week, that is where a lot of this volatile weather can occur and does often occur. So a lot of people were taken off guard by that, and I think that's why we saw, um, and by that I mean the public,
Right.
because
Right.
they weren't expecting tornadoes, because yeah, it's early March. We usually get snows and or melting out of that, and then to see severe weather and tornadoes develop at a time that's not normal for them. Uh, I think that's why we had numerous deaths that occurred with those events.
Yeah. Well, I did notice, like, you mentioned in the Michigan tornado, that was a big EF3, and then the Kankakee tornado just last week, a few days ago, when we're recording this, was a very huge storm, and there's a lot of energy in that atmosphere, and there has been that. And do you foresee that pattern staying that way? I know it's forecasting is forecasting. It's not, it's not, you can't say this is exactly what's going to happen. But what's your opinion? Do you think that trend is going to continue this year, or do you think that the South and the plains need to be alert that this spring season is going to be? Is that, and that probably has a better way to word this question, is do you think that when you see these early outbreaks, does that portend for a robust severe weather season, or does sometimes these things just happen in March, comes in like a line, and then they settle down and so forth? What's your gut on this year's severe weather season?
I guess it always depends on, it's almost like reactive. So 5 to 7 days out, we'll see kind of what happens. Sometimes there is a long-term pattern that shows up and says, okay, well, usually in El Nino or La
Right.
Nina, we see a little more activity. Um, and sometimes that will lend itself to starting the tornado season a little bit earlier than normal. And I can't say that I've really paid close attention to that. My job is
Yes.
for um, preparing people for that type of weather to occur. And so if we can get people to prepare ahead of time, they need to know where they can find this
Gotcha.
information.
Gotcha.
And then what do they do once they are starting to receive that information? So it's like planning, preparing, and then taking action based on the information coming from us. So we across the National Weather Service do try to teach weather safety to the public. And if you get the opportunity to either do a virtual or an in-person class, they're free. They usually happen around this time of year, late winter, early spring, to make sure that people know what to do when the weather does change. And then how do you report some of that severe weather that you experienced to the National Weather Service, which helps us, especially if it's near real time, to warn um, communities and people downstream of that particular storm. So
Yeah.
we do this all across the country. Visit your favorite website, weather.gov. If it's not your favorite, maybe it will be after this. Um, but you click on that national map to where you're located, and it'll
Right.
take you to your weather service office that serves your community. And then usually they have a headlines, they have stuff posted on their Facebook pages. So I would recommend that people get involved with that and help spread the word of how to stay safe during times like these.
That's great. Great suggestion there. I do. It's funny you've mentioned that because I've had you on a few other times, and I don't think we've ever talked about this. And I'd like to get your take on how and discuss with the folks a little bit how the local weather service office in Morristown, how you all coordinate with other offices and also the national, you mentioned the Storm Prediction Center because they're the ones that issue the national forecast, and then y'all have to incorporate those predictions into your predictions. And I've noticed sometimes through the years that they may have us in a slight area. You all are, I know you're trying to be as cautious as you can, not to panic the public, but y'all's wording changes by the day sometimes, whereas theirs is more broad and out there. Sort of talk about that a little bit, how that coordinates and how that makes your job either easy or difficult as a local weather office because you deal with East Tennessee. And let me just say this to our audience. Anthony runs our Morristown office and they cover all of East Tennessee. They cover down to Chattanooga, basically up to Knoxville, and then points east, and even into Southwest Virginia. So you've got and I think even Western North Carolina, right? Y'all have got that
Southwest
area.
North Carolina,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so y'all have got a pretty large area, and y'all are responsible for the local warnings that come out of the Weather Service office, whereas the Storm Prediction Center is they give the watches, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. But tell us a little bit how y'all coordinate with them and how that forms into y'all's decisions to issue forecast and warn the public of possibly bad weather.
Yeah, so the Storm Prediction Center, they just monitor severe weather conditions across the country and highlight areas where the wind shear, for example, and instability might be the best location for severe weather development. And they give an outlook from day 8 all the way to day 1 or today.
Hmm.
Now, they're highlighting those areas of possible development, and as the day progresses and the weather starts to fire up, or just before it fires up, they issue the watches, and they'll coordinate with the offices that are affected by those watches, and they severe thunderstorm watch or tornado watch. And so we have an internal communication and actually have a conference call with them, with all the offices that are affected by the watch. And we may extend the area of the watch a little bit to accommodate maybe a larger metropolitan area that may start to see some of that weather
Gotcha.
move in or whatever. So watches are usually in effect from 3 to 6 hours. And so once we receive the information from the Storm Prediction Center and kind of work out some of the finer details. But then they issue the watch, they send us the information, we transmit that out, and then we're calling in extra people to help work the severe weather event if they're not already here. Usually we're prepared even before the watch is issued. And then we begin issuing the warnings based on what we're seeing on radar and storm reports from public reports, from our media partners, from our emergency managers, 911 dispatch, those types of things. So yeah, that becomes our main focus
Okay.
uh, on that. Yeah, and we're doing other things that we normally do throughout the day. You know, our public forecasts, our terminal air forecasts for the airports, and fire weather forecasts and customer calls, and things just don't stop because severe weather is going on, right? It's
Right.
much like a
Exactly right.
hospital. You know, people are always sick or there's always something to do, and that's us, you know.
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit too because we were bragging on you the other night on our show, by the way, and the National Weather Service office in Morristown. I know it's a tough job, and I've followed the weather since I've been a child. I'm a weather junkie, and I know that y'all have seconds and minutes sometimes to issue warnings for communities, and sometimes it's a tough call because again you don't want to have get in the habit of issuing a warning and then nothing happens. And then, the second time you say, well, maybe we don't need to jump the gun. And then something does happen. And the people are always, I mean, the public, we're in the public eye here. And I get it. You just can't win with some people in the public. But I do want to ask you about that. Because I think people need to understand that you all have the lives of people in your hands and y'all make these decisions not haphazardly, but y'all really put a lot of factors into when you issue a warning. People need to take them seriously because y'all have seen something on radar. You've heard from a storm reporter or somebody out there that is a person like you, the training people, the spotters that we call them, and y'all have either been told by something that's on the ground or there's hail or something that you've seen that says, look, y'all need to be taking cover. But it comes down to minutes, don't it? I mean, y'all have got minutes to make these decisions sometimes.
Oh yeah, and not so much us. I mean, we'll be watching a storm, but thunderstorms can change in a minute or two.
That's true.
So so when those changes occur, then we issue the warning. And again, if we issue a warning, a severe thunderstorm warning, tornado warning, flash flood warning, winter storm warning, ice storm warning, those mean that your life is going to be threatened by that type of weather. So you need to take immediate action. And I mean, I know we've issued severe thunderstorm warnings, and the storm has already passed somebody's location that already got their roof partially
Yeah,
ripped off or
right.
whatever. I mean, we're good, but sometimes we're not perfect. And I think if we issue a warning, don't go outside looking for it because it may be right on top of you.
That's very well
Um,
said. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we just tell people as soon as you hear the warning, just get to the lowest level of your home or your business when we're talking about convection, like thunderstorms, tornadoes, um, and put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. One thing that we as an agency issue a lot of flash flood warnings, and a lot of people might disregard them because the majority of warnings that we issue, they're not necessarily affected by. However, flash flooding is the number 2 weather-related killer, um, more so than tornadoes.
Interesting.
Okay, um, and so during Hurricane Helene, for example, we were issuing flash flood warnings and flash flood emergencies, which are flash flood warnings that say this is going to be catastrophic flooding with a flash flood emergency. But when we issued those, we had people go out and look at the Nolichucky River and say, "Well, it's not doing anything right now." Well, we just issued the flash flood warning. We're trying to give you time to go take
Great point.
action. And so, and we saw the same thing happen in Texas, where we issued the flash flood warning, and you go look outside when your phone alert goes off, and you look at the little creek or whatever, and it's not doing anything. So they go back to sleep. Well, next thing you know, the river starts rising really rapidly, like flash flooding does, and then it's almost too late to take action. So, um, yeah, you got to pay attention to those warnings, and really in flash flood situations, seek higher ground. We tell people to turn around, don't drown, and but we often see on the news the people that said, "Screw it, let's drive through it," and
And
that is
lost their
not the
life.
right thing. That's
Yeah.
not the right thing to do.
No, that's very well said. And I'm glad you mentioned the time because on average, with the advent and the technology that has increased and with the way the Weather Service office, I've watched those old videos sometimes of the old tornado training videos and the old, YouTube videos of the Weather Service office when all you had was a black and white screen and you saw a little hook. There was no Doppler radar then. You didn't know what was in that storm. They just had to go by what they saw.
Right.
And the technology has advanced. And how has that affected warning times? Because sometimes I've seen warnings given by tornadoes. Y'all are 20, 30 minutes out to give people a cone of time to say, look, we see this storm coming at you, and you've got 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get in your house. That's really increased through the years, hasn't it? That's been a big advance in weather forecasting.
Yeah, the average is probably 12 to 15 minutes.
Right.
However, there is a sweet spot to that because we've given over an hour warning for people. So as soon as they hear the warning, they go in their shelter and they're like twiddling their thumbs, saying, "Where is it?" And
Exactly.
then they so yeah. 8 to 12 minutes is a pretty good lead time for a tornado. The bigger tornadoes are the ones that we can warn well in advance of,
Right.
but they are
Right.
very rare. So that does not happen very often. And for us in East Tennessee, what makes it challenging is the majority of our tornadoes
Nine.
are usually EF0, EF1, EF2, so on the lower end of the wind speeds. Now they still do a lot of damage, but the majority of our wind damage comes from thunderstorms and thunderstorm wind damage. So that can make our jobs pretty challenging as well.
Absolutely. I read a article yesterday. They were doing an article on nighttime tornadoes, and I did not realize that Tennessee ranks in the top 2 or 3 of nighttime nocturnal events, and those two make it difficult because people can't see them. They have to go by the sound. And I want you to elaborate on that. And also, while we're talking, it may not hurt because we got some weather newbies that they're excited. We're talking about starting a news a weather network just to talk about the weather when it turns bad here in East Tennessee.
Okay.
But when you say watch and warning, do a quick like 2 minute thing about the watch and the warning. You mentioned the watches are 3 to 6 hours. It means conditions are favorable, where a warning is something's been spotted, or y'all are looking at it on radar and saying, look, there's rotation in that storm. This thing could produce a tornado, because the warning means getting to shelter now.
Yeah, the warning is the immediate action, and they're usually in effect from 30 minutes to 60 minutes, and they're usually about the size of a county, and they are for that type of weather that's expected. So the definition of a severe thunderstorm is one that produces 1 inch diameter hail and or wind gusts 58 miles an hour or higher. And then a tornado warning is when we think there's going to be a tornado associated with it. So those are the definitions of the two warnings that probably need to take really quick action to protect yourself and your family's lives.
Right. And then the watch can be over 100 miles or so, 80 to 100 miles. And it's really a general area just to alert the public that conditions are coming together, that these storms could form, correct?
Yeah, so I guess there's a couple of different analogies, tacos and cupcakes. So I guess the prepare phase is the time you're thinking about, man, I sure would like a cupcake right about now. And the watch uh, the means that, now I've got all my ingredients for making cupcakes.
Right.
Okay, and then by the warning time, it's the cupcakes are made. Let's go eat them. So taking action with what you've got. So just an easy analogy, hopefully
Right.
that kind of describes the difference between a watch and a warning.
Why does Tennessee rank high with the nocturnal? Is it just
Oh,
our geography? Is it just we're further east? And because Georgia, Georgia wasn't, they were on the list, Tennessee, Alabama. But the Southeast gets a lot of nighttime storms, and storm systems come through here, don't we?
yeah, Louisiana, Mississippi, um, Alabama, and Tennessee, and Little Rock, Arkansas typically gets a lot. I say
Yes.
Little Rock, that's where our office is located, but I meant Arkansas. Um, gets nighttime tornadoes, and a lot of deaths occur because not only can they not see it, they're usually asleep at the
Asleep.
time that those storms go through. And a researcher named Walker Ashley came up with a paper several years ago, 20 plus years ago, um, giving like 7 factors why there are more deaths that occur kind of across Alabama, northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, and southern middle Tennessee. And the reason, one of them was nighttime tornadoes occur more often in these areas, but there's also a whole bunch of trees. Um, and there is a lot of mobile homes. Um, there are also socio socioeconomic issues that come into play also, which may explain some of the mobile home
Right.
disbursement across that area. And there were a couple other factors that came into it, but that is one of the more dangerous things that we have to deal with here. And that's also why we tell people to have multiple ways to receive weather information, because if you turn your cell phone off at night, or your battery is dead, how else are you getting those warnings?
So
Because a
true.
lot of people really do rely on their cell phones a lot. But do you have a weather radio? Do you also have television's not going to wake you up in the middle of the night, even if you have it
That's
on and you fell
that's
asleep
true.
on the recliner. Um, so yeah, we just tell people to make sure you have a few redundancy
Yeah.
things built in to make sure that you can get that weather information as quickly as possible.
I know that some cities have, especially smaller towns, have invested a great deal of money in these sirens. Uh,
Mhm.
And that has been another change, in the future of tornado forecasting and storms and keeping people informed about this. Have you seen that there's been an increase of sirens that go off into the night in these smaller towns? And is that coordinated, or is that just something that people have started doing because of these damaging tornadoes that have hit people unaware?
Well, tornado sirens are kind of interesting because they're outdoor. They're for people who are outdoors to be able to hear them. Now, sometimes East Tennessee does not have very many sirens in this area, and there are numerous reasons why, and I can touch on that here in a second. But if you're not outside, the plan is that if you're not outside, you probably have some other way of getting that weather information. So you can't really rely on the siren to alert you. Now, in West Tennessee and Middle Tennessee, there are a lot of sirens. The issue with sirens, especially in East Tennessee, is the cost. They are very expensive
Wow.
to keep up. So if you like paying taxes, then maybe a siren is for you. um, but I
That'll
mean,
end that'll end that one right away, Anthony, right there. People that know it's all right. We'll take our chances with our cell phone.
yes, yeah. So East Tennessee doesn't have very many because the cost is pretty prohibitive of putting them up. But also, we have a lot of dams along the Tennessee River,
Right.
and a couple of other rivers. But the issue is that when you hear a siren, that means the dam is about to fail, and or we have nuclear
Yes, we do.
sites along the rivers in some parts of Tennessee, and they also have sirens to warn for that. So we have Oak Ridge, we've got down towards uh, Watts Bar
Watts Bar.
and Sequoia. So those are some areas that could be nuclear related. So they kind of have put the sirens there for those purposes. There are a couple of counties. I got to say this. There are a couple of counties like Monroe County, for example. Madisonville is the county seat there. They have a siren or two, but it's set off by not by us, not by a tornado warning, but by the fire chief. If
Interesting.
he hears somebody that said there was a tornado, he'll push the button, and sometimes that causes confusion because there isn't a tornado warning out, but yet the siren is going off. So it's real important that we all,
Right.
sing from the same sheet of music.
Gotcha.
Um, and so there are some caveats to having that warning siren. I tell a funny story. It's not that funny, but in when I was in West Tennessee, they got these new sirens that could have a voice come over them, and we were in a real severe thunderstorm tornado event,
Right.
and you could hear over the loudspeaker that this is only a test. This is not a real warning, but yet it was.
Wow.
The sky was dark. That particular day, not 3 miles from my house, tore off the roof of a Kohl's. It destroyed part of this really big Baptist church along Interstate 40, and yeah, and continued across a golf course. So to have that misinformation going out for as expensive as those sirens are, that shouldn't happen.
Yeah. One quick thing, and I want to get with you a little bit, talk about a little weather history and talk about this upcoming weekend because we got some dynamics that are coming back into the country. But speaking of getting on the same page, I remember maybe it's been a few years ago sometime, and I don't know if me and you may have talked about this, but I know that, and I do have some friends in the television industry and these local TV stations, and they're good people. Is there a good relationship here in East Tennessee between you all and the Knoxville TV stations? Because I will say this, when I was in Florida, and I was working at the newspaper, I was having one of these conversations off camera with the National Weather Service office in Tallahassee, and they were not too happy with their local television station because a lot of times the warnings that they would get, the television station would be saying one thing, they'd be saying another, and there was a little friction there. And it's not a gotcha question. That's just I'm just curious. Do y'all have that kind of? Y'all have a good relationship with the Knoxville because y'all have to coordinate with the TV stations because when y'all, I'm sure they're on the phone with y'all and y'all are on the phone with them. If there's a serious situation developing in an area, y'all have got to be on the same page of telling the public what to do, correct?
Yeah, well, we have three media markets in our forecast area. We've got the Tri-Cities up
That's
in
right, the
northeast
Tri-Cities. That's
Tennessee.
right.
So we also have Knoxville, and then we have Chattanooga
Chattanooga. That's
um,
right.
media market. Yeah, that really falls under my job is to build those relationships with our media partners. So we do partner up with our media folks for getting the word out about this free training that I talked about earlier. You know, the
Right.
spotter training, weather safety training, and weather education. So um, it's sort of maybe a byproduct of that relationship with those local weather offices. And look, we have all of the technology here. We look at the forecast 8 hours or 9 hours for a
That's
shift,
absolutely.
and we're putting out the area forecast discussion on what's going to happen. And from my news partners' perspective, especially the chiefs that work in the evenings, well, they get into work around 2. They've got an immediate meeting for what's going to happen for the day. They're recording weather information for radio stations. They're having to post on their social media pages to get the word out, and they got to work on their forecast for the evening news, which these days starts as early as 3
That's true.
in the
That's
afternoon.
that's
When I did TV, it was we had just had a 6 a.m., a noon, and a 5,
5 or
and
6.
maybe a 6,
Exactly.
and that was it. So anyway, I think that some stations or meteorologists or maybe their news directors tell them we want to be a little bit different. We want people to watch us. We want you to do your own thing. If you think it's going to rain an inch, tell people it's going to rain 3 inches. Or if you think it's going to snow, the Weather Service might be only forecasting 2 inches, but I want you to forecast
Gotcha.
6 more than that. So, and again, I mean, their mission is to sell commercials. I hope it goes deeper than that because it seems that the focus is trust. Who are you going to trust when it really matters? Because, well, like us, big money decisions are made on forecasts.
Right.
So when TDOT or the DOT goes out to treat roads, that costs a lot of money. You better be right, or else you just cost thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, to do that for a wrong forecast.
There's interesting.
So there are a lot of things like that. Now,
Okay.
in East Tennessee, we don't have that problem, thank goodness. Our media partners are very supportive of us. And I tell them all the time, you guys reach a lot more people than I do. Over the course of 5 years, you can do it in less than 2 minutes.
That's so true.
Um, so the medium is very powerful, and we really do rely on our media partners to help amplify our message. And our folks are great. So
That's
yeah,
great.
I've got
Good to hear
nothing.
that. Okay.
Yes,
Good.
yeah, and I'm
Good.
I'm kind of sad to hear what you went through in Florida.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, I was with a newspaper, and there would be forecasts that would come out of the Weather Service office because I was the weather reporter for our newspaper. They looked to me to keep, if there was something going on. They knew that I was the only one in the newsroom that cared about this stuff, so they said, "Well, McDonald, we're going to give you the mantle to make sure we don't get blown away by a tornado." I'll give you a quick funny story, and I'll move on to something real quick. I had a managing editor that we had a week. We just had a week of severe weather. I mean, it was just like one day after the next. It was a system that had come through and got stalled, and we were having waves and waves and waves of severe weather, tornadoes, severe thunderstorms. And it seemed like every day the headline was severe threat today, keep alert. Well, he walks out and he puts his head around the corner and tells my editor he was trying to be a jerk about it. And
Right.
he said, do we not have more things to report in this newsroom than the weather? And she just looked at him and she said, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. If you feel that way, we won't tell the public to be alert. And then when we get blown away by an EF3 or an EF4 tornado, then I'm going to tell them that you told us not to tell them to be prepared. And he said, well, that's a good point. And he never complained again. He never complained again about the weather being reported because he saw the lawsuit and the he said that's a good point. So
Right.
anyway, it does happen from time to time. Listen, this is
Yeah.
I know you can't got you much longer, but I do want to talk about a little weather history because March is an interesting month, and this is the day we're doing this. This is the 24th anniversary of the storm of the century, and we're also coming up in April on the 15th anniversary of the super outbreak, which really affected Tennessee in two different ways. The storm of the century, there was a record blizzard here. I was down south then in that same time. We had the tornadic issue there, but we can get some weird weather things happen in March, and we've had some. Speak to that real quick because I want to talk about the tornado situation because we had a terrible tornado in London last year, just north of us here, and it just seems like these storms, the intensity of them, um, it seems to be growing in nature. It may not be. The perception's everything. We may not be having more, but it just seems that there's more EF3, EF4 storms that are really doing some brutal damage in some towns. But we had a blizzard here 24 years ago this weekend. It was March 13th and 14th, and that was a pretty wild time here, wasn't it?
In 1993, yes,
93,
yeah.
yeah, 93.
I I was over in Memphis at the time, and the following spring I was going to college at UNC Asheville. So I kind of missed it here in East Tennessee, but believe me, I've heard all about it everywhere I go. So yeah, I mean, March, April is that transition season, right? And that's one of the reasons why the atmosphere is so volatile
That's very true.
during the springtime. So we get a lot more frontal boundaries that move through. And so that was a change in air mass. So going from warm, like we just saw earlier this week with temperatures in the 80s, to today and yesterday, temperatures in the 40s. So that is happening more and more often. Now, all it takes is a really cold air mass and a bunch of moisture to move over, and then we're going to get strong storms. So, winter storms.
Right.
So yeah, that can happen, and obviously has happened in the past. In fact, April we've had pretty big snows
I
also.
remember that.
So we're really not out of the woods for this winter weather. So don't be going to plant your plants and your flowers yet. I want
Don't
to
put the
say,
sweaters up either because I made that
yeah,
mistake last week to do that. And I've got to dig them out this weekend and first of the week. But go ahead.
right, exactly. So yeah, don't do that just yet. After early April is usually when you can start thinking about planting without the risk of freezing. My trees, I have some of those tulip magnolias
All right.
that have the purple and white flowers that come out. Those trees are stupid because those flowers die almost every spring because they come out too early and then a freeze comes and then they leave a bunch of trash on my yard.
Right.
So anyway, don't do it yet. April 8th is kind of the average last freeze date for us in Knoxville. So
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah, that always makes us challenge with the change of the seasons.
We People have asked me at times about they hear EF1, EF2, EF. We'll switch to tornadoes a little bit here.
Okay.
We had the super outbreak in 2011. Of course, that was a very deadly day here in Tennessee and Georgia, Alabama, especially Alabama.
Right.
And really, it was a deadly day across the whole Southeast. I mean, it was a 3-day event. But there were a lot of EF5 tornadoes that day and fours and threes. And when you hear EF1, 2, 3, 4, 5, um, tell us a little bit how that is determined because the other night somebody was asking about the storm in Kankakee and they said, well, what rating was it? I said, they won't know that until they view the damage because that's when they determine that strength. You can't really know. And it may even look on a film because I've seen some of these wedge tornadoes and they're not rated that high because it may be a wide tornado, but that you can't determine strength by width and vice versa. There's been some very rope tornadoes that have had some very violent winds in them. And I remember the La Plata, Maryland tornado back during the Bush years, and that was an EF5 storm. And you see pictures of that tornado, and it looked like just a little rope. And that thing had 200 plus mile an hour winds in it. So y'all have to determine that by the damage, and that goes back to your weather spotters. And also, you go out with teams after a storm hits, correct, and view the damage, and that helps you determine how big the tornado was
Or how strong.
or strong
Yes.
it was. It's what a better word for it. Yeah, how strong.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's actually EF0 tornado also.
True.
So
That's right.
EF0 through
EF0.
EF5. And the winds range from wind gusts of 65 miles an hour being the low end EF0 all the way to 200 plus miles an hour for an EF5. Now we have severe thunderstorms. I told you a 58-mile-an-hour wind gusts or stronger is from a thunderstorm, right? A severe thunderstorm. So oftentimes severe thunderstorms cause more damage than even tornadoes.
That's very true.
And that's hard for people to remember. But when we're talking about tornadoes, yeah, so if we send out a tornado warning and we hear from the emergency manager or 911 that we have damage, what we'll do is we'll try to get a team together as quickly as possible out there. Now usually after tornadoes, there's a lot of trees across roads, and we're not even able to get to some areas. Terrain in our areas is really challenging to be able to see things. And there are no roads. There are logger roads, maybe. So that adds one other challenge. But then we have news stations that are following us around, wanting to get good B-roll, right, for eye candy during their story. And then they want to interview us about what we saw. And they want all this information really quick. We could just get to a scene of a tornado or the beginnings of the track, and they already want to have an interview. So I don't have any information for them, but I really need to do my job and get that information because the news stations really want to know how strong it was, how wide it was, how the length of the tornado, if it was a tornado. So those are the things I'm trying to put together, or the team that's going out to find out what happens. So we try to do this in a day. April 27, 2011 took months to complete because we had 55 tornadoes just in our forecast area.
Exactly.
And you want to talk about rare. That is very rare. We've only had since 1870 about 340 recorded tornadoes. About 55 of them came on one day.
Wow.
So that really skewed the data there, April 27th. So once we gather all that information, we're taking pictures and writing down things that we're seeing and noting the type of damage. So it could be a single family house, it could be an apartment building, it could be a commercial outbuilding. It could be a tree. Is it a hardwood? Is it a softwood? So those are called damage indicators. And then with each damage indicator is a degree of damage that occurred to that. So did you have complete removal of a roof, for example? If so, they give you there's a chart that gives you the lower bound wind speeds and the upper bound wind speeds and kind of the expected wind speeds for that degree of damage that occurred. So we can come up with a wind estimate, a fairly accurate wind estimate of how strong the winds were. Based on that information, we can rate the tornado.
That's interesting.
Um,
Okay.
so, and at times where we can't get to some areas because we have to plot the path over the geography, um, we will await satellite imagery to be able to find that path and hopefully be the most accurate. Now, why do we do all this? Well, mostly for insurance purposes, for grants for the county because they have a hazard mitigation plan and they need to know about all the damage that has occurred and what kind of weather created it. So that brings money to your county. We also do it for research purposes so that hopefully we can improve forecasting for that type of event in the future.
Sure.
So those are some of the, some lawyers want that information as well.
I bet they do. I bet they do. Well, buddy, we got about 10 minutes with you. Thank you so much. I'm going to I'll call on you again during the spring season. I'm sure again, we'll probably be doing this again, but I do want to ask you about the season coming up. And I do want to just ask you a question about the strongest tornadoes in Tennessee. You mentioned that we've not had, we've had 55 on that one day. We don't really get a lot of EF4, EF5 storms. I don't even know if they're the last EF5 we've ever had here. You might help us with that. But it seems to me, and again, I know that perception's everything, and the stats, may not be saying this, but it does seem that the storms over the last 3 to 5 years, these EF3s, these EF4s, and we've had I don't know when we've had the last EF5. I know it's that storm in Mississippi last year was close, the one down there in the northern part of Mississippi. But it does seem that these storms are hitting more in rural, in suburban areas. That they're going through these cities and doing a lot of damage, and that's where a lot of deaths occur. Because an EF5 tornado in a field out in Kansas is powerful to look at. It's a powerful thing to talk about, and you don't want, it's a wonderful thing. But an EF5 out in that is different than even an EF2 or EF3 that goes right through the heart of Knoxville, as we found out a few years ago. I just moved
Yes.
to Dandridge when that happened. That was a welcome to Dandridge. By the way, you got a tornado headed right to you from Knoxville, and it's an EF2.
Yes. Right.
And I just moved from West Knox where all that stuff took place. But anyway, what's your take on this? And do you see this year again? I know this is just a lot. It depends on the weather and the thing. I've heard that El Nino is going to be a little bit more aggressive this year. Do you foresee Tennessee and the South being in a more vigorous pattern this year? And do you think these storms are we looking at another EF, strong outbreak? I know it's hard to say because that's what weather forecasting is. It's prediction, and
Right.
we're not gonna hold you to it
Okay.
either
All
way.
right.
But what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I think that I'm always prepared for April and May to be busier than normal. And whether that be here or down in Georgia or in Birmingham, it just all depends on the setup of what is going on. So we prepare for severe weather a lot like firemen prepare for fires. We're ready to take action and be able to send out our warnings, hopefully before the event affects you. Um, so I don't have a good gut feeling even
Okay.
what it's going to be like. From what I've seen, temperatures are going to be better chances of above normal, and precipitation is sort of near normal. So what that means is maybe not as many thunderstorms, although that extra heat does cause a little bit of concern. We're kind of in a drought, a drier
Yes, we are.
time period right now in East Tennessee, especially Southeast. The Southern Tennessee Valley is very dry, but there does show a slight improvement in that over the coming 3 months. So that's going to be mixed in with some storms here and there, and tornadoes. It's really dependent on where those frontal boundaries are located.
Right.
A warm front, tornadoes really like warm fronts.
They
So
do.
if the storm crosses over warm fronts, that's what we're going to be concentrating on. So I wish I had
That's fine.
a clearer picture of that, but
Okay.
um, yeah,
Let me
and
make it
and
let me make it a little easier on you then. Let me talk about this weekend then, because I know that there's another possibility. We're sort of they're already 3 days out putting a yellow bullseye on the plains, and then it's already over in Virginia. So that means it's got to move. So it's not just going to jump over us. Is there a possibility of severe weather that you think Sunday night into Monday? Because I know that we're under a possibility at least that we could see some robust storms, but then it's going to turn massively colder. And Wisconsin is it's almost like a setup of the superstorm of '93. They're going to get 3 feet of snow up in the northern plains, and we're it's going to turn cold here, but we're going to get a cold rain after this. Typical typical springtime setup. You got cold air and snow in the north and severe thunderstorms in the south, isn't it?
it is. It's a pretty vigorous storm system moving through. That low pressure system moving across the Great Lakes is going to be dropping down a lot of cold air out of Canada, and that is where you're starting to see all the volatility in the atmosphere with the thunderstorms. Golly, from Chicago and Michigan
All the
all the
way
way
down.
down into Texas and West Tennessee. Um, that it looks like the Ohio River Valley, Mississippi Valley, Mid Mississippi Valley is really under the gun with that strong frontal boundary. And that'll probably occur during daylight hours. So peak heating, really good contrast between the warm and
Oh,
cold air on the backside of that. Now, as that system travels east across Middle Tennessee, and then once it hits West Tennessee and the plateau, it'll probably weaken quite a bit
okay.
because it'll be close to morning time. And then by Monday, uh, it'll be a little further east. Again, daytime heating, which is where they started to highlight
Virginia.
some areas in North Carolina and
Yes.
South Carolina. They might be more under the gun for severe weather. So
Okay.
here in East Tennessee, I like to tell people we're kind of in the sweet spot.
Yes, we
Um,
are.
because a lot of storms, the plateau kind of breaks storms up as it moves into the valley. Usually, there are some times where that isn't the case, but I think this is what's going to be for Sunday night into Monday
Okay.
for us
Good.
here.
And you've told me this before, and I'll let you go after this. The storms that are more concerning for us are not those that go east to west, but when they come from the southwest and move northeast, because we don't have the buffer of the plateau when they come from Chattanooga northeast. And that is the ones that are most concerning because I've seen some of the more vigorous tornadoes that have hit this region have come from the southwest, not necessarily from the due west.
That is correct, and the reason is that flow that is parallel. If you looked at a topography map or even like a Google Earth over the Tennessee Valley, you'll see a lot of those valleys run from southwest to northeast. Well, if you get the flow that is going that same direction, you can get these little eddies along those valleys, and that's all a thunderstorm needs to kind of tap into. So it's
Rotate.
much easier to get tornadoes that way. I do want to make sure that people understand that uh, east to west, southwest to northeast are usually our best chances for severe weather. However,
They have
I
moved
have
west.
seen supercells move from Kentucky south
I've seen them too.
into
Yes.
Tennessee. So they move all directions. So again, just make sure you have multiple ways of receiving info and tune in to a trusted source. Don't go to your favorite Facebook weather page, right? That's dangerous. Please check the Weather Service Facebook page for backup to what you might be seeing on social media. We had a problem in messaging with this the big ice storm that hit Middle Tennessee,
Yes.
there were people posting on Facebook 2 weeks in advance of 26, 30 inches of snow falling, and that in East Tennessee, and that never happened.
That never happened. That's a
That
good
would that
point.
would have been
Good
like
point.
a record snowfall that's never occurred before. But people were following that on social media and posting it out, posting it out. Being prepared is great, but expecting that type of snowfall was kind of ridiculous.
And it
So
produces undue panic and undue feelings, and people get disappointed. And they don't blame the idiot on Facebook. They blame you guys. Well, the Weather Service office said that. No, the Weather Service office didn't say that. You listened to somebody's Facebook page, and they said it. So
exactly,
I get you totally. One quick
yeah.
final question: your
Okay.
time in Tennessee, what has been the biggest tornado that you've covered the outbreak? I know the 2011 event has to be up there, but of all the storms that you've seen come through this part of our region here, what storm stands out to you with in your memory that was the most volatile tornado wise?
So I moved here in 2012. So I moved here in April of 2012. So March 2nd of 2012 had a few tornadoes, and that 2011 system was incredible. But I wasn't here for
Right.
that. And since I've been here, man, there's been three events. One tornado event, which was the EF3 tornado that happened in 2020. It was Easter Sunday night in Chattanooga.
I just remember
Um,
that. I remember that.
that now that was during COVID, so
Yes.
a lot of people were teleworking and things like that. But I remember briefing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and knowing it was going to be a later evening event. It was going to be nighttime because that tornado hit around 11:30 in the
Wow.
evening. It was 19 miles long, and it destroyed it was a auto parts store that just got leveled. So that was probably the strongest tornado. The Gatlinburg fires was a big deal,
Yes.
which was a lot different. We did have two tornadoes that night after um, the fire, which killed two people down in Polk County, and it hit McMinn County, Athens, went right through downtown Athens. And then the third thing was Helene. Helene was devastating
Brutal.
and incredible. So here I've seen some pretty wicked events in a short period of time. 2012 wasn't that long ago. At least I don't feel like it was. But
Yeah.
so three major events, billion-dollar disasters that happened.
Here in Tennessee.
Um, so yeah, so those are some of the more recent events that have been had a big impact on my life because a lot of my friends are in the emergency management community and they were all affected by it as well. So I just wanted to make sure that the information they were receiving from us was helping them.
Well, I will tell you this as a close today. I look at what you do as a thankless job, but there are people out here, including me, that appreciate what the National Weather Service office in Morristown does because being a weather person, I know your job is not easy. And like you said, y'all, it's just human nature. Look, we've been on this network 8 years, and we've had to come back and clarify things we've reported and said, and it just happens, man. It just in the course of events and the information, the way it goes so fast, sometimes things get lost. And but you all are dealing with something different. Y'all are dealing with lives, and y'all are dealing with the prediction of these storms, and y'all doing the very best job. And I will tell you, I'll tell the folks out here tonight. I've been to your classes. I've been to two or three of them through the years. They're excellent. And I do encourage people next year. I know you told me the other day y'all are pretty much wrapped up for the year with these, but I would
Right.
encourage the people in your local areas of the country to check with your local National Weather Service office and sign up for one of these classes. Even if you don't plan to spot, it will help you understand the dynamics of what Anthony and people like him do. And I tell you what, it will do. It'll give you a greater appreciation for the I wouldn't call it stress because Cavaluchi looks like he's fired up and ready to go. He's all young, whippersnapper looking, but I'm sure he has a triple decker stress sandwich from time to time, having to
It's
deal with.
funny. Hey, funny you say that. Yeah, I tell people all the time I'm 25 and working shift work and all that stuff. Actually it is a very stressful job. So if I
I'm
don't look
sure it is.
stressed, that's okay. But yeah, I've got it.
Well, I appreciate you, buddy. And I do want to tell you publicly, we appreciate you out here in the public for what y'all do to keep us informed. And I'm sure we'll be all listening in when these storms come through this spring. And I encourage people to. I hope if they don't take anything away from this tonight, I hope they heard what you said about following Facebook Meteorologist. Stay with National Weather Service data. Stay with your local TV stations, but stay with this man right here and other National Weather Service offices. They're looking at the data. And as he said, sometimes you get these kooks on the internet that want to play weatherman and they don't have any clue and they'll predict some crazy thing and people get bent out of shape about it. But listen, I've kept you longer than I know you probably had time for today, and I'm deeply appreciative of you being with me, and I hope we can have you again soon. God bless you. Folks, we'll be right back. Anthony Cavaluchi of the National Weather Service office in Morristown. We've been grateful to have him. We'll be right back. Do not go away.
Thanks, Chris.
What a great guy right there. We've been so grateful to have him tonight. Did you enjoy, Anthony? That was good stuff. And we hope you got a little bit of information about the upcoming spring storm. We're in the middle of it, and it runs in the south, March through June, really the first 2 weeks of June. But I've been here in Tennessee almost 23 years, and we call it the Dixie Alley. We're part of the Dixie Alley tornado alley. I know the Plains, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa. Iowa gets pummeled with huge storms, but our tornado season really don't stop. The only months that we get a little reprieve are the summer months of July, August, and September. But here in Tennessee, at least, but on the Gulf Coast, Georgia and Alabama and Florida, you've got these tropical systems that form and they can produce massive tornadic activity. But we're in Dixie Alley here, and our tornado season goes from November through March, and November through May, honestly, because during the fall and the wintertime, it warms up here sometimes very quickly, and you get a cold front slamming into this, and you can get some pretty massive tornado outbreaks. And we've had some here in East Tennessee since I've been here these years. I want to just go over a few things about this weekend, and then we're going to take your questions. We got some breaking news about the Iran situation tonight. We basically took out every single military target on Karaj Island in Iran tonight, and President Trump made a statement today that caught my attention about Israel. He said that Iran was trying to take over the Middle East, and their goal ultimately was to destroy and annihilate Israel. That came out of our president's mouth, something we already knew, at least some of us that see the evil as being Iran and not Israel. That's part of the problem in our country right now. You've got people wanting to make Israel the evil one, not Iran, but I don't want to start ranting and raving about that tonight, even though I do. But I do want to just give you a heads up. I want to come over here to the National Storms Prediction Center site, and I want to click on this convective watch. Let me get my whiteboard out of the way so I can do that. But I want you to look at this. This is day one tomorrow. There's really nothing at all tomorrow going to happen. But if you will look at this day 3, and they don't really put anything on this except just probabilities, but this is a typical March storm tornado outbreak setup that is setting up. There is a huge low pressure system that is developing. It's going to develop right here in this part of the country. It's going to move basically this direction. It is going to, and maybe even more closer like this, but it is going to stir up quite a bit of convection. And my error, probably, let me redo this error. It's really going to form here and sort of follow this track. And anything north of this low, you folks in Western Pennsylvania, Michigan, but Wisconsin, this little Great Lake area right up here, and y'all have seen some big snows, and it's already been a very blustery winter and lake effect snowstorms and so forth. I would be encouraging you tomorrow on Saturday to take a trip to the grocery store. I didn't realize this tonight. The Weather Channel was reporting we've got 1.2 million people without power already tonight, already in the country, and that's just because of another low pressure that is exiting the area. But this one here is going to be much more intense. It's going to follow a typical spring path, and everything north is going to be massive snow. It's really very eerily similar to the storm of the century of 1993. I want to ask you a question in the chat tonight. If you remember the storm of the century, wherever you're at in the country, just put a thumbs up and tell me your memory of that. I lived down here in Florida at the time, and this whole area, it was like almost a Category 3 hurricane that hit. We were having 12 to 15 foot storm surge hit the Floridian coast, especially around the Big Bend. It's tremendous damage. We had tornadoes. In fact, I've got a little chart I'll put up for you just to show you. We did a little chart on it tonight to give us a summary of what happened during that storm of the century. And it's really eerie because what's about to happen this weekend is very similar, but it started on March the 12th, lasted through the 15th, affected the Gulf of Mexico all the way up the eastern seaboard to Canada. 318 deaths occurred from this storm. It was a crazy 4 days. I worked at the newspaper. 10 million people were without power that weekend. Never will forget it. Lowest pressure, and you can see the satellite image of it. That is an eerie looking storm right there. I mean, it just looks like a monster, don't it? And you can see the eye of the, this is what it looked like over the country. It looked like a mini hurricane that formed right over the land. And there was massive blizzards pretty much as far south as Georgia. And everything north of here during that storm, people were getting 12 to 15, 20, 30 inches of snow. Very, very eerily similar to what's going to happen. The only difference is this time the snow is going to be a little bit further north. It's not going to be in the south as much as it's going to be up these Great Lakes. If you're in Wisconsin tonight, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and I would even say western New York, because this storm is going to head off to the northeast, you need to be preparing for some pretty intense snow weather this weekend. Mount LeConte, Tennessee, which is a little hiking area just near Cage Cove. If you know anything about Gatlinburg, if you go up 441, it takes you to Cherokee. Mount LeConte, you have to hike it. You park, and it takes you a good couple hours to hike it. It's the highest point, really, in the Smokies. But they got almost 60 inches of snow. Syracuse, New York got 43 that year. Pittsburgh, 25. Birmingham, Alabama. You Alabama folks, you may not remember this. 13 inches of snow fell in Birmingham. It's unreal. And Chattanooga, which is just to our southeast. You heard Anthony mention it. His Weather Service office in Morristown pretty much covers Chattanooga up through the Tri-Cities. That little area of the country right there, and I would probably need to cut off the Georgia side. But the National Weather Service office in Morristown really covers this little area right here, and we're sort of in here. But Chattanooga that year got 20 inches. 26 states saw snowfall totals of that magnitude, and some even reached 60. We had 64 inches of snow on top of Mount LeConte after that. I was down south. Some states, again, had snow drifts 10 to 15 high. And then there was a southern end of this storm, and this was the deadly part of it. Florida experienced hurricane-like storm surge 12 feet along the Gulf Coast. That thing tore up. It just absolutely tore up the Big Bend area of the country right down here. And you can see it, folks. It just looks like a mini hurricane that formed over land. And this thing there's a reason why they called it a storm of the century. But it produced a severe tornado outbreak in Florida. 11 tornadoes resulted in 44 deaths of the 318. The other 318 was blizzard related. And airports in Atlanta, Birmingham, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York, Boston were all closed. 10,000 flights or more were canceled. And again, that took place. It really tonight was 24 years ago tonight was the apex of it, but it lasted a good 4 to 5 days. Now, they're not saying that this storm here is going to be a storm of the century. However, it is going to have a lot of the dynamics that system did. But the most dangerous dynamic is that little orange box right there. And if you look down here at the bottom, it's basically the risk level of severe weather. And there's going to be a level 3 of 5 in this region of the country. And it's a pretty large area from southeast Illinois, Indiana, through southeast Missouri, all of Arkansas, northern Louisiana, Mississippi, and the extreme northwest part of Alabama. But that is encompassed by another area of slight risk at level 2, and that goes from western Ohio all the way down to the Gulf Coast, including Alabama, all of Alabama, Florida Panhandle, Louisiana, Mississippi, the rest of Mississippi, and then wrapping around Illinois, Missouri. Very similar areas have had all this bad weather over the last 3 weeks here as we started March, and we've got another round of it. And I don't want to get too much deep in the woods about the storms, but I will say this. What they're expecting to have happen is a line of storms that's going to form along this frontal boundary. This is what's going to bring all the cold weather to the southeast this weekend and Monday. But they're believing that there's going to be a squall line, and that's basically just a line of thunderstorms. And they can be very severe. Tornadoes can be in them. They can be embedded in them. But they believe there's going to be a long line of storms that's just going to literally race across the southeast, the mid-south. And if you're from Michigan all the way down to the Gulf, you're under a threat this weekend. Starting Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, most of the weather will be back out the west on Sunday, but Sunday night into Monday morning, just carry this way. And you folks over here, I know Elaine Willard lives in eastern North Carolina, Virginia. We got several listeners in Virginia, the Carolinas, Georgia. Please be alert of the weather going into Monday morning, because that's when you're going to get your worst weather. Now, this is 3 days out. Today's Friday. This is Sunday. They will update this probably in the morning, and we may just pop a little chart into the McFiles Telegram room to give you an update. But this is a developing situation, and it is going to produce a lot of damage. And if we've already got 1.2 million people without power tonight, and a lot of this is right up in here in the country, states of Wisconsin and Michigan are already dealing with hurricane force winds along the Great Lakes. And is this video going to play for me? I hope this video will play. This is the Weather Channel early tonight. This is a buoy, and it's not going to play. I'm having problems with these videos. I don't know why it does not want to play on my computer, but we'll try this. Let's see if this will do it this way. Maybe it will. Nope. Wrong one. That's not the video I want. I want the video of the buoy out there in Michigan. And no, it's not going to do it. Okay, we'll work on the video. We've been having problems with the video playback on X here and XSplit. But regardless of what the video plays are done, we got to wrap this up quickly. It's already 11:10, and we've got a faith program coming up here at midnight. But be careful out there this weekend. It's going to be dangerous weather, whether you're in the south or the north. But you folks in the north, be preparing for a blizzard, because and you've got hurricane force winds. They're expecting anywhere from 50 to 60 mile an hour winds to accompany the snow. That means power outages. And I would be, whatever you do, I'd be preparing for it tomorrow, because it's coming. And this down here is going to be a little bit more unpredictable, because really all they know is they know a line's going to form, but they just don't know exactly where. That's why they put all this big area in a watch area, sort of to give you heads up that anywhere in that area, in that yellow and that dark orange, the dark orange is where more of the tornadoes are possibly going to form, and this stuff is going to head east and so forth. Now, in the shows that we've got coming up next week, we're going to talk a lot about the spring storm season, more specifically, and the weather and some weather history. But when we get these events like this, we're going to switch to weather programming here on the McFiles this year, and I hope you're enjoying it. We've gotten a lot of compliments, a lot of people telling us they appreciate us doing it, and they've learned a lot. And so forth. So just be heads up. And Debbie says, I do a lot of praying in March. She says, I live in a mobile home and I have no safe place to go. Debbie, I'm praying you do find somewhere. I wouldn't be in a mobile home in these storms, wherever you're at. I'd call family or somebody, but that's me. But anyway, be alert down here. And this has the potential, and I'm not saying it's going to be this bad, but the setup is eerily similar to the storm of the century, the superstorm of 1993. And 318 people dying. But that's a lot of folks. That's a lot of folks passed away during that storm. And tonight is the 24th anniversary of the worst of it. And then we're coming up in April. We're going to try to get James Spann on, our dear buddy up in Birmingham, another great meteorologist. And he works with the local affiliate there in Birmingham in Jefferson County. And we're trying our best to get him on because this will be the 15-year anniversary in April of the super outbreak. And we're going to talk about that outbreak sometime this month or next and talk about it. All righty. Now, that's one part of the show tonight. The other developing story is coming out of Iran tonight. And I want to talk about this. This is the most powerful bombing raid in U.S. military history that happened tonight. I'll just read the story. President Trump on Friday evening announced the U.S. military carried out its most powerful bombing raids in the history of the Middle East. Moments ago, at my direction, the United States Central Command executed one of the most powerful bombing raids in the history of the Middle East and totally obliterated every military target in Iran's crown jewel, Karg Island. He said on Truth Social, quote, our weapons are the most powerful and sophisticated that the world has ever known, but for reasons of decency, I have chosen not to wipe out the oil infrastructure on the island. However, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider that decision. As Trump's telling him, I'm going to blow you to smithereens. By the way, I got to say this. I don't know if you read his whole statement today. Let's see here. Maybe it's in here, maybe it's not. He used the word scumbags. And I had to laugh. My dad never meant it. He didn't mean it bad. He was always joking around with us boys. And he always told us, he said, don't be acting like a bunch of scumbags. he was doing it out of love. Dipstick and scumbag. And when we answer the phone with my brother, when my brother Todd calls me, I call him. He'll pick up the phone. How you doing, scumbag? I like, doing good, scumbag. How you do? We don't mean it bad, and don't lose your lunch and religious feathers and wad over it. But we McDonald's, we like to rig each other, and, you know, we laugh about it, and we do it all in love. But when Trump used that term today, I started busting out laughing, because somewhere in this statement, maybe they've got it. No, they don't have the whole statement. But anyway, you got to go on True Social to see it. But he basically, I'll read it. He says, during my first term, I rebuilt our military, lethal, powerful, and effective. Iran has no ability to defend anything that we want to attack. There's nothing they can do about it. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, nor will it have the ability to threaten the United States, the Middle East, or for that matter, the world. Iran's military and all others involved in the terrorist regime would be wise to lay down their arms and save what's left of their country, which isn't much. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And what he basically said today, he said these scumbags do not know what's about to hit them, and he unleashed almighty HE double toothpick on them tonight, and or earlier today. It's their night over there. But we need to pray for our military. Here's President Trump. I'll let him say it in his own words.
The situation in Iran is going very well. A lot of big hits today, a lot of big wins today, as you probably have heard militarily. And I think it's going very well and very good control. We'll see what's happening with the Straits. They continue to try and sabotage their own country in the Middle East, but it's been very, very strong militarily.
Very, very strong militarily, and that is President Trump on the situation in Iran. I will say this. We're going to fix this video thing. We got some video we're going to play for you, but I will tell you that he tonight issued a statement, and I think it was One American News, where he basically said that they have determined through what they found out in this little Operation Epic Fury that Iran had the infrastructure and they were going to take over the Middle East. This was done at a time. Had we not done it now, we may not have been able to do it later. But he said their definite goal was the destruction of the nation of Israel and the annihilation of the Jewish people. Very similar to a certain demonic individual called Haman in the nation of Persia that we talked about. Purim was Monday night and Tuesday night. So very prophetic. Be with me Sunday night. I'm going to talk to you about Jeremiah 49 and Ezekiel 38 and 39 and talk to you about why this is not the fulfillment of that, but it is the setting the stage for something that is prophetic to come. And we're going to talk about all that with you Sunday night. And we'll probably talk about that with you up in Dalton, Ohio. Dalton, Ohio. And so forth. All righty. Did you enjoy Mr. Anthony Cavaluchi tonight? I'm going to give it to you because we got to get going here. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you got any questions tonight, any comments, now's the time to say it. And, yep, Pat, here we go again. Kentucky, it's going to be hard to say what's going to happen in Kentucky, but you're going to be on the storm side of things this go around. Crazy thing about all this weather, and I'll come back over to my screen. After this stuff goes through, we're going down into the 20s Monday. Our high Monday is going to be like 30. I'm not sure we're going to get above freezing. And going down to 22 Monday night and again Tuesday night. So it's going to be a return to winter for a lot of you folks in the east. This cold front, that's why this vigorous cold front, there's a lot of wind energy with it. That's why they're expecting this severe weather. We're doing this not to scare you, but to prepare you. So just remember that. You need to be prepared. You need to be a heads up. This weekend is coming, and so forth. I enjoy these weather shows. We're working on something, doing something with the network, but to do something with weather. I've always wanted to do it, and we'll see what happens. But listen, if you got any questions tonight, anything before we let you go, Carol Smith says, I sure hope homes in the South have basements. Carol, that's a good statement. Some do, some don't. I think some of the newer homes that are being built, even in Alabama, they're building storm shelters. Storm shelters is something you really hear about out west in the Midwest, Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, because they get some huge, huge tornadoes during the spring and summer, early summer. And the South don't really think about that. But, that's a good question. That's a good statement. And that's the safest place to go. But I put it like this. If you get a massive storm with EF3, EF4 with winds that are 160, 200 miles an hour, which we're going to talk about this next week a little bit, those kind of storms, ultimately, you have to be below ground to survive. Your house is probably not going to survive winds like that. And I'm not saying that's going to be the kind of dynamic setup this weekend, but there's going to be a lot of volatility in the air, and I do expect that there will be some strong tornadoes in this along that line. And if any storm forms ahead of that line, it could be a big, big storm. So we'll see. We're going to see how this plays out. It's hard to say right now, but I think your statement is right on. I hope they do too. They need them if they don't. They need them if they don't. All righty. And I would say this about if you're in a mobile home or manufactured home, I would have a plan to go, if you got a friend or neighbor, a relative, somebody, you don't want to be in mobile homes. Most tornado deaths occur in mobile homes. And even Anthony said it in the interview, it's not just tornadoes. Look, these storms this weekend are going to be, they're going to pack a punch. Even without a tornado, you could get 70, 80, 90 mile an hour winds in some of these thunderstorms that are coming through this weekend. They can do just as damage and kill you just as quick as a tornado can. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to have a tornado to have damage. I've been in these hills for 25 years, and I've seen some pretty robust storms that have done a lot of damage. I remember a storm. It was right the week before the great outbreak of 2011. We had a rogue thunderstorm that formed in Chattanooga and raced up northeast, came through Knoxville, the southeast side near the airport near Maryville, damaged airplanes. The airport in Maryville shut down. They had to shut down Tyson McGee. And that thing packed almost hurricane force winds. One thunderstorm, just an isolated thunderstorm, normal spring day. And it stayed intact for the whole 100-mile trip. There was a lot of energy with that thing. And it happens. These freak storms can happen. So what happened in Michigan? That Union City tornado was an isolated storm that just kept intensifying, and it had nothing around it to hinder it, and we did find out tonight, sadly, 4 people have died in those storms in Illinois. And another thing about Iran tonight, we had 6 servicemen that died in a mid-air collision over Iraq. That brings the death toll to 13 in Operation Epic Fury, and our prayers for all of those families tonight, and so forth. All righty. Elaine says our water table is too high in the neck of the woods for basements to stay full of mold. And Elaine, that is an issue sometimes with, basements and so forth. The only silver lining in this for our neck of the woods here is the water. We have been in such a drought, and when these storms come through here, we normally get dry in the springtime real quick in the fall. So we have to get our water, and the rain is welcome. We just don't want the bad weather and the destruction with it. All righty. Listen, I love you guys. Don't look like we have too many questions tonight. I'm going to let you go. I appreciate you being with us. Whatever you do, if you can be with us here in about 35, 40 minutes, right at midnight, we're going to have just an overnight time of worship and prayer and praise. And it's going to be on the Spirit Word Fire Network. It will not be on Facebook because they'll cut us off, even if I tried to do it with the copyright of the music. But we will be over on YouTube, and we'll try to play it on Rumble as well, maybe X. But come be with us. And then this weekend, Saturday Night Gospel Sing tomorrow night. And we've not really done a full news show yet. I've got to get this video situation straightened out because we need those videos to play. But anyway, what we will do, we will figure that out and do a news show next week and sort of catch up on some other things that are going on in the country. Do check our Telegram room out. We can play the video there in Telegram, so we may have to just do that and comment on that. But whatever you do, don't miss Monday night. We've got a very powerful Monday night early special. We're going to try to go at 8, but I may start it at 7. We're going to honor Mary Catherine Baxter's memory. 50-year anniversary of the events of her book, A Divine Revelation of Hell. And you do not want to miss this show. If you've got a lost loved one, if you've got somebody that you know is maybe struggling in their faith and you're concerned about them, have them tune in Monday night. Our dear friend Sherry Caudell, I met Sherry 2021 when I had the privilege and honor to be at Mary Catherine's funeral and speak a little bit and sing. And we've been trying to get her on for 5 years. We finally got her. I begged her and begged her and begged her. You got to come on for this. And she agreed to come on Monday night. And we're going to honor Karen, talk about Catherine's legacy and that book. And we're going to play excerpts of it. And at some point, we may just play the whole book, do a special show about the whole book, because it will make you think about eternity. And that's the purpose of why we're doing it. And then we got a week full of shows next week. And happy birthday to Caleb Joseph McDonald. I got to tell you a quick testimony tonight before we leave. I had lunch with my son yesterday and Carla. And if you don't think that a dad is more proud tonight of his boy, I am so proud of Caleb for so many things. He's about to go in the Air Force. Proud of his marriage. But as I was sitting at the table yesterday, they looked at me and they said, Dad, said, guess what we did this week? And I said, and I was holding my breath. I was like, uh-oh, she's pregnant. I said, am I going to be another granddaddy again? It wasn't that. I would have been proud of that. But this made me even more prouder. He said, Dad, we went out and we both bought Bibles. And we started reading the Bible this week. And started tearing up. I did. I said, really? I've been praying for this and praying for this and praying for this. And he said, yeah. He said, we got some questions for you. And they asked me some questions about the Bible. And we talked at the table yesterday about their questions about the Gospels and Christ and things like that. And these young kids, Carla's in her 20s, Caleb's in his 20s, and they couldn't have given me a better, that's a Christmas gift to me. I mean, they've made my Father's Day Christmas gifts and every other holiday yesterday by telling me that. Because dear old Dad's been praying that would happen with my son, and I didn't pressure him. I didn't berate him over the head with it. I've talked to him about his faith, and I've told him over and over, I love you, and I'm just wanting you to be right with God. I don't care what else you do in this life. I said, I don't care if you're a garbage collector. If that's what you're happy about doing it. But I said, what I do care about is that your life and soul is right. And sometimes they stare a hole at you when you tell them that. But sometimes the Lord puts a seed in them, and He waters it. And the Lord watered that seed yesterday. And I'm grateful. And I think that's a testimony that's worthy of an amen. And I'm proud of my boy. I'm proud of him, and I'm proud of Carla. And I did jokingly tell him, I said, you could have picked a better time to go in the Air Force when we're at war in the Middle East. I said, your dad is going to have a stroke. And I said, because I'll be worried about you if they call you over there. And he said, don't worry about it, Dad. They don't want nerds in the Middle East. And we were laughing about that. I said, good point. He said, they don't want nerds in the Middle East. He said, that's why I didn't go in the Marines. He said, my skills will be behind a desk. And I said, I'm praying for that. Anyway, God bless you. God bless your families, and God bless this great nation of America. Happy birthday to Caleb yesterday, 24. And Brandon's birthday is next week. My Elias David is going to turn 7 years old. Can you believe this? 7 years old. We're going to honor him Sunday. He's be on the 15th. March 12th, 15th, and 18th. How did that happen? 3 days apart. Caleb the 12th, Elias 15th, and Brandon's the 18th. Lord have mercy. Only God can do that. But listen, we're grateful for you. May the Lord bless you. Have a good night. Please join us for this Watch of the Lord, folks. It'll bless your heart tonight. And we're just going to play about here. May the Lord bless you. And I'll see you back here Monday. And we will probably have a late show Monday tonight too. But thank you for being with me tonight. And be safe down south. Be safe in the north. And prepare for some dangerous weather across the U.S. Sunday. Please be safe out there. Have a good night, everybody. Be blessed. Good night.